And we can quickly look at decimal number. Previously we looked at a fraction and how can a fraction be represented as a decimal. When we talk about the fraction previously, we talk about the part that you will have and the whole number. So fraction is about the part of a whole. We talk about proper and improper fraction. In a proper fraction, we know that the numerator must be less than the denominator. Example, 1 on 4, 1 on 3, 2 on 10, 6 on 17. All of these can be regarded as a proper fraction. And we say improper fraction, we have the numerator which must be greater than the denominator. 5 on 3, 9 on 2, 1 on 9 on 99. All of these represent a improper fraction. When you look at the improper fraction, when you divide the number itself, the 3 can go into 5 only one time, and there will be remaining. And in terms of a decimal, if we say 1 for this case, and we have 2/3, which now represent the remainder of the fraction, and this can be the whole number and the remainder, and this is represented in terms of a fraction, and we can compute this into a decimal by adding a whole number and the remainder, and you can realize we have a dot which separates the remainder from the whole number. Now we can define a decimal number as a way of represent numbers that are not whole using a decimal point to separate the whole part from the fractional part. And you should always remember that the decimal number has a base of 10 apart from all other number systems, which makes them very essential for precise measurement, money, and scientific calculation. In order to understand a decimal number, we have two parts to a decimal number. That is, one is the whole number part, and two, which is the fractional part. And it is mostly separated by decimal point, like what we have explained here. And each of the digit in a decimal has a place value based on the power of 10. Example, in such definition, if we have 3.142, which we have the whole number itself, and after the dot or a decimal point, we have the fractional part. To represent in terms of the place of value of a decimal number, we can have 3 plus 0.1 plus 0.04 plus 0.00 and 2. When we add them all together, it will give us 3.142. And this is important for you to identify the place of a value for a decimal number. And we can see that the decimal is equivalent to the fraction. However, they are represented differently where in decimal it is represented with the base of 10. As an example, we can look at a fraction number which is 1 and 1/4. We can represent this in a decimal 1.25. 0.25 represents a quarter of a whole number which is 1. And if we increase to 1 and 2/4, which is also equivalent to 1.5, and it will give a decimal value 1.50. So we can continue increase to see the difference. If we have 1 and 3/4 in decimal, it will give us 1.75 until we reach 1 and 4/4, which gives us 1 plus 1. Now we have 2. And this type of addition can be seen in this scope, where we have the value and the place of the value of a decimal, which is so important. Similar as this one, we have 1 plus 3/4, which gives us 1 and 3/4. Decimal and fraction are nothing but just a representation of data differently. So if you understand fraction, it is known that you will also understand a decimal value. The decimal value can be found in mostly all application ranging from science, business, mathematics itself, to sports, to sales, and so on. In terms of a measurement, if we have a timber which is 2.5 meter and we want to create a joint by heading 1.2 meter, so we want to extend the length of this timber, we normally head the 2. So 2.5 meters we head with 1.2 meters, then we have 3.7 meters. Now the new length will be 3.7 meters. In terms of sales, if someone is buying a packet of rice for 3 kina 50 and buy a soap for $0.7, therefore the total now will be 3.50 and 0.70. We have 0 to carry 1 and $4.20, which is the actual price. And if someone pays for a $5, then we normally minus the $5 with the amount which is 420, and this one will be 5.00 in terms of a whole number. So we have this one is a whole number, this one is a whole number. 0.20 is the fraction part. Then we know that $0.80 will now be the change. So we can see the importance of decimal in mathematics, in terms of science, and in many applications. If you have a calculator, you can simply compute the fraction and the decimal. I believe you have learned the simple mathematics in your primary level of education, so this is not too complex for you to understand. Now we will look at a percentage. What is a percentage? Because all of them are in similar manner. If you understand one, you can understand most of them. Similarly, we say fraction is a way of representing number, decimal is a way of representing number, and now percentage is a way of representing a number. In a percentage, it is a way of expressing a number as a fraction of 100. We previously know that by fraction is a part out of the whole number, and in terms of a decimal, we have a whole number and we have a decimal point that separate the part of a fraction. And now we have, in terms of a percentage, it is representing a part out of a whole number, and we multiply by 100, which now gives us the percentage. To see the relationship as a basic definition, percentage means per 100, meaning a 1%, it is equal to one part out of 100, which is also equals to 0.01. In here, we have the percentage, we have the fraction, and we have the decimal. Now, if you understand this region, everything about percentage is just simple. Example, if we have 20 out of 50, so 20 is just the part of the whole number, which is the 50. And if we multiply by 100, we now get 2 on 5 times 100, which will now gives us 40%. 2 of 5 is a 40%. In decimal, we can divide by 100 to get 0.50 in decimal. So we can see fraction times 100, which now gives us a percentage. And the percentage divided by 100 will now gives us a decimal. And we can remember that decimal is nothing but a part over a whole number, or a part of the whole number. So you can transpose this equation to find whatever value, such as you want to find the fraction, or you want to find the percentage, or you want to find the decimal. And it is also straightforward. So you can find decimal in also many applications in terms of the business, engineering, science. In business, if you went to a shop and you see a percentage discount, and depending if it is a 50% discount, therefore if the initial price is 50, the buying price now will be 25, which means half of the whole or the selling price, which is 50, so you can buy it now for $25. And such as in engineering, I mentioned previously, if you want to find efficiency of a system, voltage output of the system divide by the voltage input times 100, which will now gives us a percentage efficiency. Therefore, you can find that this type of mathematics can be applicable in many areas and in everyday life, such as your grades in school can be computed using percentage to see if you pass or you fail a certain subject. And in many encounters in our life, we normally come across this maths. So learning this maths is vital, because if you are out somewhere, you can be able to compute by applying those theorem that we learn in terms of the arithmetic.